Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we're plunging into something really ancient, but honestly surprisingly immediate. It's a powerful, quite raw prayer from millennia ago, Psalm 70. And our mission isn't just, studying an old text. We want to uncover its enduring wisdom. See how its urgent cry can actually resonate with our own lives, especially when things feel overwhelming, maybe desperate.
Right.
We've been looking through this biblical text and also insights from various commentaries, really trying to understand this intense plea. Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah, and what's fascinating here is how this incredibly short prayer, it's born from this moment of real crisis, how it kind of gives us a shortcut maybe to understanding resilience, trust, our relationship with God, or maybe even just our own inner strength when life feels like it's just too much.
Yeah.
It's sort of a model for facing vulnerability with this profound, almost a defiant honesty. It's not, like you said, a gentle request. It's desperate, it's relatable, and holds some really powerful insights, I think, for anyone navigating tough times.
Absolutely. And to really get the impact, let's dive into the psalm itself. Psalm 70, attributed to King David, and like you said, remarkably short, just 5 verses.
It's 5.
But wow, packed with this raw intensity. It's a direct, unvarnished plea for swift deliverance from his enemies. You can almost feel the urgency in those opening lines. They're so direct. Make haste, O God, to deliver me. Make haste to help me, O Lord. That's verse 1. It's not exactly asking politely, is it? It's almost commanding.
No, it's anything but polite. And if we connect this to, the bigger picture of ancient prayers, this isn't some formal church piece. This sounds like someone at the absolute end of their rope, talking to what they believe is the ultimate authority. And the structure itself, it just ramps up that intensity. Verses 1 to 3 are this snark, immediate appeal for rescue, asking for his enemies to be shamed, confused.
Right.
Then, kind of surprisingly, verse 4 pivots. There's a blessing for those who seek God and rejoice.
A little island of hope almost.
Yeah. And then verse 5 snaps right back to this humble confession of his own need, ending with another plea for haste. It's like this powerful emotional roller coaster in just a few lines. It really speaks to that universal feeling of wanting help now.
Inside that desperate cry, there are these, I think, profound lessons, ancient wisdom that still hits home today, whether you're coming at it spiritually or just thinking about human resilience.
Yeah.
The first one that really jumped out at me is this idea that urgent prayer, or maybe just an urgent appeal, is actually a faithful act. David doesn't mess around. He asks for immediate action. It's not about being proper. It's about being real.
And that urgency, I think, it's actually a sign of deep trust.
How so?
Well, it shows David's absolute conviction that God can intervene, and not just eventually, but like right now. Instantly. And the ancient insight here is key. An appeal doesn't need to be long or eloquent or even calm to be powerful.
Right.
Think about those moments when you just blurt out, help, or, oh, God, those gut reactions.
Yeah, totally.
Short, urgent cries like, help me, God, or even just, I can't do this alone. They've always been part of how humans express need across cultures, across time. It shows this active faith, not passive waiting, an active belief something or someone can help.
That leads to another point, which is maybe a bit challenging for some of us today. It's this idea that it's okay to ask for justice against those who are hurting you. David asked for his enemies to be ashamed and confounded, turned backward. That can sound pretty strong, maybe even vengeful to our ears.
It definitely can sound that way, and it's a common reaction, I think. But it's important to see it in its context. He's not plotting personal revenge, like he's not going out to harm them himself.
Okay.
He's asking God, who he sees as the ultimate judge, to deal with the injustice. In that ancient world, divine justice often involved, a public showing, vindicating the righteous, maybe shaming the adversaries. It was about demonstrating God's power, not just personal payback.
Ah, okay. That's a crucial difference.
It really is. Trusting a higher power, or maybe just the process of justice to handle enemies or wrongs. It's actually a mark of humility, and maybe maturity. It acknowledges that real justice is often bigger than us, and surrendering that need to control the outcome, whether to God or just letting go of retaliation, it actually deepens our own peace.
That makes a lot more sense. It's less about personal vendetta, more about restoring some kind of order.
Exactly.
And then right in the middle of all this urgency, verse 4, David blesses those who seek God with joy, but also says they should shout, let God be magnified. It's this mix of joy and reverence, even while he's in trouble.
Yeah, it's striking, isn't it? That mix of personal joy and A reverence points to a really whole relationship with his faith. It's a reminder that seeking God, or maybe seeking meaning, isn't just about getting our needs met. It's also about acknowledging something bigger, giving it glory. Even in his own deep distress, David's perspective isn't totally consumed by his suffering. He points others towards magnifying God. It shows this remarkable outward focus, even in personal crisis, like finding a moment of gratitude even when things are tough. It doesn't erase the pain, but it broadens things.
That's such a powerful lesson in perspective.
Yeah.
And then the final point, verse 5, this just floors me every time. David, the king, says, "But I am poor and needy. Make haste unto me, O God." A king calling himself poor and needy. That's humility's strength.
Right?
It flips our whole idea of power.
It absolutely does. The ancient wisdom here is profound. Recognizing our dependence on God, on community, on just, luck. Sometimes that's not weakness, it's strength.
Okay.
It's the starting point for help to actually arrive. It strips away that illusion that we have to be totally self-sufficient, which is honestly a pretty lonely place to be. And it invites real connection, real support. I mean, think about it. A king, powerful, rich by worldly standards, declares himself poor and needy, spiritually, emotionally. That vulnerability is where the real connection happens. And it's interesting, you see this idea in lots of wisdom traditions, even modern psychology. Admitting need is often the first step to getting help.
It really is countercultural, though, isn't it? We're pushed to seem like we have it all together.
Totally.
So, let's make the leap. How does this ancient cry from a king help us right now? How does it strengthen our trust, our resilience, our connections?
Well, first off, I think it reminds us that God, or the universe, or whatever you connect with, welcomes your urgent, messy, emotional appeals. If you're in crisis, anxious, overwhelmed, angry, you don't need a perfect prayer.
Right.
David gives us this model that's raw, real, and fast. So when you feel like you're drowning, a simple cry, "Help me now," or "God, please," that's totally okay. You don't have to compose yourself first. That authenticity builds a real connection.
That feels really freeing. No need to put on a brave face before asking for help.
Exactly. And second, consider letting go of that burden of being the judge and jury for your enemies or the injustices you face. In our culture of call-outs and quick retaliation, Psalm 70 pushes back a bit. It suggests asking a higher power to act rather than plotting personal revenge.
So practically.
When you feel wronged, maybe pause before reacting. Instead of planning your comeback, mentally or verbally hand it over. Letting go of being your own defender, protect your peace. It shows trust in a bigger process, whether that's God's timing or just letting things unfold. And it frees up so much mental energy.
That's a huge shift. Okay, what else?
Remember that outward focus. Speak blessing or goodwill over others, even when you're hurting. David, in verse 4, he blesses everyone who seeks God. That's amazing, given his situation.
Yeah.
When you're hurting, the pull is inward, right? To isolate. But if you can, just for a moment, send a good thought, a wish for well-being, maybe a silent prayer for someone else. That act of grace, stepping outside your own pain, can actually soften it a little, connects you back to empathy to others.
That's beautiful. Not ignoring your pain, but expanding beyond it.
Precisely. And fourth, admitting need is where strength starts. We talked about the king being poor and needy. In a world telling you to fake it till you make it, David's honesty is profound. Real help often starts when we admit our limits. So try saying it, maybe just to yourself, maybe to a friend, maybe to God. I need help. Let that be okay. It opens the door. It invites support, grace, relief. It builds deeper, more honest connections.
And finally, what about impatience? That feeling of, I need this fixed now.
David gets that. The repeated make haste shows us it's okay to want things to move quickly. Faith isn't always passive waiting. Sometimes it's bold, persistent asking.
So it's okay to be impatient with God.
I think it's okay to be honest with God about your impatience. Bring that urgency to him. You don't have to pretend to be patient if you're not. Being real, even with your impatience, actually strengthens trust. It shows you're engaged, you believe he can act now.
Wow. Such a short psalm, but so much to unpack. Okay, so wrapping this up, what's the big takeaway for us today?
I think Psalm 70 teaches us that those short, desperate prayers, those raw cries for help, they're sacred, they're powerful. David's journey in these 5 verses through distress, asking for justice, blessing others, admitting need, it's all an act of deep engagement. And that last line, "Thou art my help and my deliverer, O Lord, make no tarrying." It's one last, insistent act of trust.
Yeah.
It reminds us that God, or the universe, hears the hurried prayer whispered in traffic, maybe shouted in grief. You don't have to perform. Just be real. Just pray, however that looks for you. That authenticity, that's the foundation of real trust.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. It's given me a lot to think about. And as you, our listener, go about your week, maybe consider this. How will you apply this information in your life? How will you bring your true urgent self, your needs, maybe even your impatience, to God or to your challenges, knowing that vulnerability can actually be the start of finding your help and your deliverer? We hope you'll continue your own deep dives, finding wisdom wherever you look.